long, long ago, before cities and countries, before kings and borders, the land between two great rivers was quiet. These rivers were called the Tigris and the Euphrates. Their waters flowed slowly through vast stretches of dry earth, cutting through the silence of the desert, bringing with them something far more valuable than anything else in the ancient world: life. At first, early humans moved across the land in small groups, following food sources, searching for water, surviving day by day. But something began to change. Instead of moving endlessly, some groups began to settle near these rivers, because where water existed, life could remain. They discovered that seeds planted in the soil could grow, that crops could be harvested, and that food could be stored for later use. This was not just survival anymore. This was stability. And stability changed everything. This region became known as Mesopotamia, a name that means the land between rivers. It is often called the cradle of civilization, not because civilization existed everywhere at once, but because here, in this specific region, human life began to transform in a permanent way. For the first time, people began living in one place for long periods. They built homes, organized communities, and began forming structured societies. Small groups grew into larger settlements. Settlements grew into towns, and towns eventually became cities. This shift from wandering life to settled life was one of the most important turning points in human history. It allowed people to think beyond survival and begin planning for the future. Among the earliest known inhabitants of this region were the Sumerians. They are considered one of the first great civilizations of the world. The Sumerians established some of the earliest cities in history, including Uruk and Ur. These cities were carefully organized for their time. Homes were built using clay bricks, streets connected different areas, and central locations served as hubs for trade and community activity. At the heart of these cities stood massive structures known as ziggurats. These stepped temples were not just buildings, they were symbolic centers of religion and culture. The Sumerians believed that the gods influenced every aspect of life, from rainfall to harvests to prosperity. As a result, religion played a central role in their daily routines. But alongside religion, something else was emerging, something revolutionary: the need to record information. As trade increased and societies became more complex, people needed a way to track goods, agreements, and transactions. Relying on memory was no longer enough, so the Sumerians developed one of the most important inventions in human history: writing. Using sharp tools, they pressed symbols into soft clay tablets. This system became known as cuneiform. At first, it was simple, used mainly for accounting and record keeping, but over time, it evolved. People began using writing to document laws, to preserve stories, and to record historical events. For the first time, knowledge could exist beyond the human mind. It could be stored, shared, and passed down across generations. This advancement alone reshaped the future of human civilization. As Sumerian city-states developed, they were not isolated forever. Power began to shift. The Akkadians emerged as one of the first groups to unify multiple city-states under a single ruler. This marked the rise of larger political structures, moving from independent cities to centralized authority. Later, the Babylonians rose to prominence. They built upon earlier achievements and expanded them further. As these early societies grew stronger, other powerful civilizations began to rise in the same region: the Akkadians, the Babylonians, and later the Assyrians. Each of these groups built empires, expanding their influence across the land. One of the most famous rulers of this time was Hammurabi, the king of Babylon. He created a set of laws known as the Code of Hammurabi. These laws were written and displayed publicly so that people could see them and follow them. Writing systems, laws, cities, trade, and organized societies. The Middle East, this land between rivers, was not just the home of early humans. It was the beginning of civilization itself, and its legacy continues to shape the world we live in today.